Yesterday, the Supreme Court of Kenya dismissed the various petitions appealing the result of the 9th August election, which saw William Ruto, incumbent Vice President of Kenya, emerge as the winner. The Supreme Court upheld William Ruto's victory in last month's presidential election, dismissing his rival Raila Odinga's claims that the vote was marred by rigging and irregularities. The 7-member court, led by Chief Justice Martha Koome, upheld William Ruto's victory and found no discrepancies in the vote tallies and no credible evidence that the Electoral Commission's computer systems and transmission network had failed or been breached. By this ruling, the court upheld the election of Mr. Ruto as the next president of Kenya. Joining us now to discuss yesterday's ruling by the Supreme Court of Kenya is Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, Nigeria's former Minister of Foreign Affairs. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tundo. Nice to have you back on the program. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Prof, quickly, your take on the latest development in Kenya. The Supreme Court upholding the election of William Ruto as president.
Well, let me start by congratulating you, Dr. Abati, on your column at the back page of this day. I don't think any analyst, and that includes me, could do better. A few takeaways from that judgment. I mean, first of all, I think it's done Kenyans proud, and it's done Africans proud. I think in the past, how many weeks, Kenya has come up with 7 heroes, starting with the chairman of their electoral management body, and now these 7 judges of the Supreme Court. A few issues that resonate with me. I think the first is, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court did not mince words in warning lawyers that it is perjury, a criminal offense, to swear to an affidavit on behalf of their clients, which they are either not sure of the facts being sworn into, or the facts are patently false. I hope this warning, it doesn't even a message, this warning will resonate with all lawyers in the world. Because don't forget that even in several cases that came up with President Trump in the United States, lawyers' integrity have been brought into account by some of the things that they are signed on to, and some of of course, they are careful that, when they go before the court, you don't come up patently with falsehood, or else that would even be contempt in the face of the court. But that struck me, what the Chief Justice, the warning she gave to lawyers. Number 2, I think Lord Denning will be jumping in heaven at the ethos of that judgment. Let me give you one illustration. 4 members of the electoral body had refused to sign on to the final declaration. The judges rejected the notion that the chairman of the electoral body was the all-in-all, or else why will you have an electoral body set up if the chairman alone by himself can, declare, make the determination as to who would won the election and declare. And when she said that, frankly, I was shaking where I was sitting, that, oh my God, they are going to annul this election. But Solomonic judgment came into it, that all you four commissioners, you were part and parcel of this until the very last minute. You never at any point objected to anything. And in any case, you didn't even present before us any evidence to substantiate your allegation that the declaration was opaque and whatever other language it was used. In other words, that you cannot benefit from rascality of behavior. The four I'm using my own words now. I'm not using the words of the Lord Chief Justice, my own words. You cannot benefit from your own rascality. Of course, they were being polite. Others will say you cannot benefit from corruption. Because how could you be part of a system, a process, until the last minute, and then you get off? And because of that, they refused on that point to even countenance this, rejecting the result of the election. That struck me because that was natural justice. In some jurisprudence that we know of, they would have used that as the technical point to nullify the result and either order that new ones should be held, a new election should be held, or that Raul Odinga should be the declared president. So those were my own takeaways from the judgment. Thirdly, and this is an issue which you have raised in your column, they did not allow themselves to be bogged down by technicalities and by the long processes that lawyers love. Tondo, I know you are a lawyer, so I apologize. I'm not hitting at you. But do lawyers love talking? A point that could be made in 2-3 minutes, they will take 2 weeks to make that point. The Constitution of Kenya had made it in such a way that the uncertainty that goes with long procedures, long processes are dealt away with, and that judgment could be given before people are sworn in. The Waste Commission, and one will continue to make reference to this report that has been dumped somewhere by the government, did tackle this issue of governors and presidents not being sworn in before all legal processes were disposed of. Precisely because we know that once a governor gets into office or a president is sworn in, it's the resources of the state or the resources of the taxpayer. We often talk about the state as if it's an entity different from taxpayers. It's the taxpayers' money that the incumbent then uses to, and to that extent, even the lawyers who are involved on the side of the president or on the part of the sitting governor are not really interested in having these cases disposed of promptly and quickly. The point where I disagree with the judgment, and I'm saying this, really with gladness in my heart and with all due respect to the judges. And again, this comes from my being a member of the Uwe's electoral committee was I didn't like they deciding that each party should bear their own cost because of the national interest that was involved. Because, you see, what we proposed was that where a client loses a case, he should bear the cost of the winning party. That way, people will be careful about bringing frivolous cases to court. Some of the lawyers on our committee were opposed to that because they felt justice will not be served if you close or if you close down that avenue for people to come to court. But there are just too many frivolous cases that come to court, whether on electoral matters or on other issues, chieftaincy matters, land matters, and what have you. So I just think that, the Supreme Court, should have penalized, especially since their language was very strong. This case was not proved. There were cases where there were instances where they brought data from 2017 case and tried to pass it off as if it was from 2022 election. And so to that extent, I thought there should have been punishment, and I will still continue to argue that finally we made a provision, or we proposed that where somebody has benefited from what word am I looking for now? No, from cheating in an election, either by rigging the election, snatching boxes, tearing up ballot papers or whatever have you, and he has benefited from it, he should be banned for the next, I can't remember how many years now, whether we say the next election or the next two elections, from participating in another election. And we thought that may curb the rascality, and the people tend to violate the integrity of elections. But all in all, I think Kenyans did themselves proud by the kind of integrity, the good nature, and the elementary language in which that judgment was read. I know they did say that they will write a longer and release a longer judgment later on, and maybe that will now have all the technical details there. But they gave a judgment that even the average groundnut seller can understand.
Right, thank you so much, sir, for that analysis. What other parallels, gleanings, and lessons would you say apply to us here in Nigeria as we, look forward to our elections, right from the candidates, the campaigns, even just beyond this yesterday's Supreme Court ruling?
A few things before the election, before votes are cast. I hope that the security system, the security services will monitor behavior of supporters of candidates. I don't like what one has seen so far of billboards being vandalized, billboards of opponents being vandalized. I don't like threats that are made against some candidates not being allowed or being threatened from coming to campaign in some other zones in the country. The country should be free and open to all candidates to campaign, and I think that the INEC and the security forces should continue to hammer this point that it will amount to, well, I'm not sure, Dr. Abati is always quoting the electoral bill. So I'm not sure whether there are sections of that bill that criminalizes vandalization of billboards or attacks being made on opponents. If there are not, maybe it's not too late to have again an amendment rush through that will criminalize this. That's the first one. The second is, it made the job of the Supreme Court so easy. The fact that from polling booths, they were able to trace figures all to the public portal to see whether there will be any discrepancy. If there are no discrepancies, you don't need to call any witnesses or start swearing to an affidavit that somebody was interfering, during the process. If the figures that were signed on to inform 32, 38A, I'm sorry, I can't remember now, and what came out of the public portal, is those figures are exactly it made the job of the Supreme Court so easy. And I think that INEC should ensure that there's no breakdown in that system. And even where there is, as there was in the case of Kenya, in some of the constituencies, the backup documentation did not show any discrepancy. Number 3, recall that the electoral management body in Kenya actually made, from the moment you feed in the result from the polling booth, it was available to everybody, including the ordinary Kenyan or the Kenyan student who may be in a university in London or in the United States. He could plug in into the portal and be reading the results as the figures as they are being read in. I would really recommend that to INEC rather than what we tend to do here. We love power in this country. And a manifestation of power is hoarding results, hoarding figures. Let the figures be so open. One of the things that wrecked the June 12 elections was the way and manner the chairman of NEC at that time decided to stagger the announcement of the results, even though these results were already available to party agents, they were available to commissioners at NEC headquarters, but the chairman of NEC wanted to appear on television every day, release a batch, go home to sleep, and then you'll be looking forward to his appearance the following day. And that allowed the military to then say, stop the announcement. If he had released, and And how do I know that he had the results? Because when there was a court case, actually NEC, or not Nadeco, what am I talking about? Fedeco, we've changed their name so many times, but you know what, I mean, you know the names of our electoral body at that time. They filed an affidavit in court saying, we already had the results. Here are all the results. Why were the results not released immediately you got them? Because you wanted to play up this manifestation of power. The Kenya electoral body learned their lesson and made it available to everybody. I hope that our own INEC will also do the same.
I mean, great points made, sir. But at first, the Kenya elections didn't become this good, and the constitutional change as regards the Supreme Court didn't become this good, if not for the Mwai Kibaki elections. And we all know what ensued, how the international bodies had to come settle. Then they finally reached an agreement that Raila Odinga was the prime minister while Mwai Kibaki was president and all of that. And they learned a lot from that elections and they changed things. What would you say as regards these characters I will mention? The role of Julia Cherera, the renegade chief of the factional group of the election body. In fact, she was the vice chair of the election body that went to Serena Hotel to say the results are fake and the likes. What, should be done to people like that in society? Because they cannot go unpunished if now that all the calculations she made were wrong by the court. And secondly, even more baffling is the case of the vice presidential candidate of Raila Odinga, Martha Karua, who is a lead counsel, a senior counsel, a highly respected person and counsel in Kenya, also overseeing this frivolous challenge as we speak. And after this judgment, in a statement written, they said, yes, they've accepted, but they disagree with the court and their movement continues. And you wonder, what should be done to people like this?
Well, thank you. Let's wait for the full volume of the judgment of the court, because the Chief Justice also did have some harsh words for what she called the board games that are being played within the management body itself, and that they were going to come up with some recommendations. In fact, part of what you also didn't say in terms of how far forward Kenya had come was the fact that Kenya will be the only country in Africa where a sitting president and a sitting vice president were dragged before the International Criminal Court of Justice for instigating, promoting, whatever other language you want to use, violence as a result of the election results. So they've learned their lesson. In spite of that, I am really surprised that President Uhuru Kenyatta will not be gracious enough after the Supreme Court had ruled to offer congratulatory message to his Vice President Ruto, whatever might have been their differences in the past. The man is still your Vice President, even up till today, and he has just been declared by the highest court in the land. You will recall in my appearance on your program the very day these election results were announced, when I said Uhuru Kenyatta had disappointed me by the language, the crudity of the language with which he attacked the Supreme Court when they ordered a rerun of the presidential elections. It shocked me to my marrow. And obviously, he hasn't learned any lesson. No, I mean, I'm not surprised about Odinga not saying congratulations to Ruto. But I'm surprised that the office of the president has not done any great marvel to the character of Uhuru Kenyatta. Anyway, now that he's on his way out, he will go and rest on his farm in Kikuyu land, and we will allow Kenya to get on with their life. But I hope that as they review what has happened in this election, provisions will be made to punish through the judicial system the behavior of those four commissioners. In other words, part of the reasoning of the Supreme Court was you said it was opaque, but you did not provide any evidence before us where allegations are made by officials of state and you do not prove before a competent court the veracity of your accusation or your allegation, then surely there must be some punishment attached simply in order to prevent. Because as I said in my earlier comment, a totally different panel of the Supreme Court could have come to the conclusion that since 4 of the commissioners refused to sign on to the results announced by the chairman, then the chairman's announcement itself was unconstitutional, because the provision in the regulations of the management board which allowed the chairman to do what he did, the Supreme Court did say it violated the Constitution of Kenya. So to that extent, they could have concluded that it was unconstitutional and that therefore they were nullifying the decision of the chairman. But that's why I said Lord Denning would have been very happy with that judgment, because to have nullified it based on the rascality of 4, even though they formed the majority, would have allowed even the majority to benefit by their own rascality, which the Supreme Court was not prepared to do. But they should go beyond that and recommend that provisions should be made. Because you see, you are putting especially given the historical perspective of Kenya electoral violence.
Prof, sorry to interrupt you. Yes, I've been trying to get a word in. And, just trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, as they say. We have just a few seconds to go. We wanted your comment on the development in the UK, now that Liz Truss has emerged as Prime Minister. What will you be saying to the new Prime Minister?
Yeah, she did go to Oxford, didn't she? Studied politics, philosophy and economics. Let us hope. Sorry? Let us hope that the compassion she didn't pick up at Oxford, she will pick it up in dealing with the problems that she's going to inherit. I don't think that she's going to be of much use to England or to the United Kingdom if she goes in with this attitude of not really knowing what she stands for. She started as a liberal Democrat, voting for abolition of the monarchy, and now she's on the right wing of a right wing party. It's not going to help her. People must know what she stands for, what she intends to do, but she must think of the United Kingdom as a society rather than a fragmented sectional society.
Well, on that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Professor Akinyemi, for joining us on today's edition of The Morning Show. Thank you very much indeed.